Hey guys, I went to go see Oppenheimer this weekend, Friday specifically, and boy, do I have a story to tell you. This was a hectic day. Let's be upfront here. Unbelievably hectic. I guess this is going to be story time because let's start from the beginning. I guess let's start from my relationship, my history with Christopher Nolan films and IMAX as a format and as an experience. I love Christopher Nolan. I love his movies. I would say I'm a fan of his. It's been, he was pretty influential to me in my preteen years of establishing my love of film and filmmaking. So I think it's safe bet to say that I'm a fan of his, even though I'm aware of some of the criticisms that have grown, you know, throughout his career. Some that I agree with, but he was so integral that I can't deny his significance in my taste in film. And whenever a new Nolan movie comes out, I'm gonna go see it. You know, Inception came out in 2010. Around my preteens, and that really kickstart my love of films. So I own for that. And I also love IMAX. I am a fanboy of IMAX, both in terms of the theater experience and the technology behind it. Now, I have never, up to this point, experienced IMAX 70mm film in terms of a movie. And in terms of my journey up to this point, I was very fortunate to experience aspects of it. Around, man, what year was it? I don't know the specific year. I will look it up and I'll put it in the screen. But I was able to see a documentary in IMAX 70mm in Dallas, the Dallas Fort Worth area in the OmniMax, uh, in the museum over there. OmniMax is basically the dome I'll put a picture of. And that was a really unique experience. That was my first time. And experiencing IMAX film before through a documentary. I believe well, I'll put the picture of the documentary and the pictures and footage that I had of that location when I went. It's definitely in the IMAX bucket list for me. I was able to see a movie in the OmniMax before they would close it down, partly due to the pandemic, but also for renovations. And as the recording of this video, it's closed, and they're upgrading it to be a fully digital screen, whatever that is. Sounds cool, but it is definitely an end of an era. So I was very fortunate to have experienced it before the upgrade renovation happened. In 2021, I went to a trip out of town, and one of the stops we took was the Grand Canyon, and I was also able to experience a normal screen experience in IMAX 70mm. It was a documentary, the Grand Canyon IMAX documentary that they show over there. And that was also an amazing experience as well. And I was very fortunate to experience that because uh, they would close it down, and now it's now upgraded to IMAX Laser. Now, this is probably the high grade original IMAX Laser, as I'll get into more detail later. And so I consider myself fortunate that I was able to experience the documentary in IMAX 70mm film in that location before they, you know, upgraded and renovated the theater. But it's always been my dream to experience a film, specifically Christopher Nolan, a new Christopher Nolan film in the format. And when this new film was coming out, Oppenheimer, I I was I it was already a given that I would never experience it. I live in Texas. I'm not going to say specifically where, but I live in a small place in Texas that is not near a metropolitan city that you would normally think of when you think of mass population groups of people in Texas. So, and I was also aware that in previous releases of Nolan's films in IMAX 70mm, the one location that was a sure hit, sure guarantee was in Dallas. I believe it's the Cinemark 17 in Dallas. And I live very, very far away from Dallas. So it would be admittedly really cool to make a road trip to all the way to Dallas. I'll be upfront. I would do that. I would make a trip, really long trip for a movie. I'm that type of person. But I am not a great driver enough to make that long trip. So far, I can only do short distances as the time of this recording, though I am improving. But then, when this movie was announced and the locations were revealed, before I saw the locations of the IMAX theaters, I was already expecting, like, oh, nowhere near here. But then I was surprised that it was not one, but two locations in Texas that were going to show Oppenheimer in IMAX 70mm. Dallas, the Cinemark location, and in San Antonio, the AMC Rivercenter 11. This was a pretty big deal. Now, as I mentioned, I live in a distant part of Texas, so an estimation, without giving away my location, um, it's going to be a 4 hour, less than 4 hour drive to San Antonio. But that is much better than where I live to Dallas. It's actually more feasible. I've been to San Antonio many times. I've been to the theater many times. And in fact, I went to go see Dunkirk in San Antonio. I was in a trip, and that was one of the pit stops. We decided to, you know what, in 2017, when the movie came out, I decided, yeah, let's stop by and go see Dunkirk in the theater. It was a IMAX Xeon digital presentation, so it only did the 1.90 aspect ratio, what people would call LIMAX. I actually disagree with that terminology because I actually consider IMAX to be, even in a IMAX digital experience, it's still an experience that you would not get from another auditorium like what Regal does. I believe Regal does. I'll put what they do, or what Cinemark does with Cinemark XD. Those I've experienced those theaters before, but even in an IMAX digital presentation, it offers an experience that cannot be given with any other conventional premium large format auditorium. So, to quote a news reporter,
But I think that's a little harsh. I prefer to use the phrase IMAX Junior.
that IMAX Junior presentation I saw in the Rivercenter 11 AMC in San Antonio in 2017, and it was in that format. I was aware that that AMC in the Rivercenter did have an IMAX 70mm projector. For those who don't know, the Riverwalk is an area in San Antonio. The Rivercenter is a mall in San Antonio that resides in the Riverwalk. And San Antonio is known for many things, including the Alamo. The Alamo, very similarly to the Grand Canyon, separate from the Grand Canyon and separate from the Alamo, but are connected in a way, is there is an IMAX documentary. So this Rivercenter AMC theater, AMC, it has regular auditoriums that show, movies, but then for IMAX releases, they have not one, but two IMAX auditoriums in the Rivercenter Mall. One was built when the documentary was made, I believe 1988, and the auditorium looks like this. And as you can tell by the picture, by the images that I'm showing you, it is definitely meant for a documentary that's around 45 minutes long. So comfortability is not the top of the list of when they were making the theater. It was to make an excellent IMAX theater for this documentary first. And then later on, I believe in 2001, the beginning of the 21st century, they made the other auditorium. Now, this auditorium has different seating. In the original auditorium, it's split into two sections, section 1, section 2. Here's an image. And then in this other IMAX theater, it's just one section that is basically stadium seating. That's a more of a curved, curved inward to match the IMAX screen. Both are impressive theaters, but both are capable of IMAX digital Xeon projections. But it's only one theater, as I'm aware of, that does have IMAX 70mm capabilities, meaning they have the projector. So when I heard that Oppenheimer was going to show there, I jumped at the chance, made my plans. Thankfully, my plans didn't fall through, and I was able to buy them. I bought 4 tickets, age 17, 18, 19, and 20. It is the second to front row in the second section. It is off center, but close to the center seats. And I thought, given the circumstances, especially given the circumstances that these tickets were selling fast, for obvious reasons, I got good seats. I got the 2:30 p.m. showing on Friday. Now, here's the thing. This AMC Rivercenter 11 has never shown an IMAX presentation before, as I mentioned. They didn't show Dunkirk in IMAX 70mm. They didn't show Tenet in IMAX 70mm. And I believe they did not show Interstellar in IMAX 70mm. So it's probably been a decade since this projector has been used for a feature film. It's debatable how long it's been since they've shown the Alamo documentary, but in terms, it's debatable if this is even the first motion picture they have shot it in. They have shown it in. Sorry, and so there was a bit of skepticism. I was optimistic but skeptical, realistic but also excited. Now, the 4 seats that I reserved ended up being 2 people going. I didn't refund my tickets. I didn't want to risk people taking the seats. I didn't want to refund 4 seats to get back only 2 seats. Didn't want to do that. So it's just me and the other person. We decided to leave on Thursday. We left on Thursday, spend the night there, and then on Friday, we went to go see the movie and then come back home. We made the drive, less than 4-hour drive on Thursday, and I kept updates. Now, thank you to r/IMAX, a community, a subreddit that I have partaken in for years now. And that subreddit has really bubbled in popularity, in more users participating since this new Oppenheimer release. And that was a great source of updates for other people who were going to see it in their specific states. It became a useful source of information as events went along. We went there on Thursday. There is a film critic for this San Antonio news, local news, that said that he was able to see the movie on Monday at that auditorium, but an early screening Monday of that week, so 21st is Friday, 20, 19, 18, 17. So July 17th, the Monday of that week, he was able to see the movie. I believe it was Monday or Tuesday. I'll put it up. So July 17th, July 18th, he was able to see an early screening of the movie in that same auditorium in which the 70 millimeter projection was going to be shown. Of course, to his surprise, they did not show it in IMAX 70 millimeter. This perplexed him, but nonetheless, everybody in that theater saw the movie from beginning to end using the IMAX Xeon projector. He talked to an employee for the Rivercenter, AMC Rivercenter, and they said that they had the film set up for Thursday. Now, the first showing of the movie officially for the Rivercenter was 5 p.m. on Thursday. So on July 20th, I was already at the hotel where I was staying after the fun we had that day. I was in the hotel and I would check updates on my phone to see what had how successful it was. But I had that suspicion in the back of my mind because yet again, I have in good authority to say it's probably been a decade since they've done this before, or maybe even the first. Well, the people who went to go see the 5 p.m. showing on Thursday, July 20th for Oppenheimer in IMAX 70mm in AMC Rivercenter 11, well, they didn't get to see the movie. They had problems. Here's video of the mishap.
God damn it.
Christopher Nolan's new silent film, Oppenheimer.
Back there, I want it.
ASMR.
No, I want that.
So yeah, the movie began. This Reddit post says they got in 45 minutes and then the audio cut. And they sat there in silence and then they had to stop the movie at some point. Here is another video of one of the employees coming into the auditorium and telling them that they're going to get a refund or a refund equivalent, a movie pass.
We will give out, we did. We will be giving out everyone in here movie passes, which is technically a refund, so you can watch it at a later date. Again, we do apologize for the sound issue. If you do want a refund, we are giving refunds at the concession stand.
Thank you.
Now remember that lady, because she's actually really important to this story. We'll get to her. That was a bummer, and I was scared. So they figured out that it was a sound issue, and I found out through a different method. Looking at the r/IMAX, and also at 11 p.m. on Thursday, I decided to call them directly. I called them directly in my hotel room to ask. I called them. Thankfully, they picked up. This was 11 p.m. And I knew that they were going to be open because they had a 5 p.m. and also a, I believe, 9 or 10 p.m. showing. 10:30 of, so, and the movie's 3 hours long. So 11 p.m. they would still be open, but I didn't know if they were going to answer the phone. And they did. I'll give them props for that. I called them on Thursday night at 11 and they picked up and I asked, I just found out that you just had issues at the 5 o'clock showing. What was up with that? And they said, well, the projector is fine. The film ran fine, but we had an issue with the sound. IMAX is going to ship a component that we need to replace for the sound. They're going to do overnight shipping at 5 a.m. and an IMAX rep is going to come in and fix it and have it operational before the 10:15 a.m. showing on Friday. Because of this, we had to cancel the second showtime for Thursday night. So after that failed attempt, it shouldn't have been attempt, but we get to that later. The first attempt at 5, they canceled the second showing on Thursday. And I was optimistic. That notion of sending a movie, sending the component late all the way to early morning, 5 a.m., so they could repair it before the 10:15 showing, 10:15 a.m. That is commitment. And I felt pretty optimistic, but also realistic. I mean, this is UPS or FedEx. I believe it was FedEx. It is FedEx. I'll get to the proof. And so I slept that night. I got up and I took my phone out to check any updates. Well, 10:15 came around and they had the same issue. So because of that, they ran into the same issue because the part did not arrive yet. We decided to drive into the Rivercenter. As I mentioned, my show time was 2:30, and we arrived at 12. It was 12 p.m. So there was like a good 2.5 hours for my show time. Very early, too early to start seating. We arrive at the lobby of the IMAX section of the mall, because to explain, so they have the AMC normal auditoriums in the higher level, and then the level below that is the IMAX theaters. So I went into the lobby and I met that same woman, the woman in the glasses that's in that video. She was in the ticketing section with another woman. She was blonde. And we talked to them about, yeah, we heard about the situation at 5 and how they canceled the second showtime for Thursday. And then we just heard about this. And well, her response was, yeah, apparently it's supposed to come, it's still being shipped here. It hasn't arrived yet. But hopefully it will arrive before the 2:30 p.m. showing. Okay. I was optimistic though. And to their credit, both of those women workers were really nice. They were very apologetic, very attentive, very honest. They were very open about the situation that was happening. So we had basically a play-by-play. The part didn't arrive at 5 a.m. like the other employee on the phone call last night said. And I'll get to why that is in a moment. And me and the person that I came with, we were hungry. We didn't eat. So we decided to eat at a restaurant at the Riverwalk. And while we were eating and talking, I would continually check my phone at r/IMAX for any updates. And what she also, before we left, she said, okay, if the part doesn't arrive before your 2:30 p.m. showing, then we're going to give you a refund. We'll email you the refund. So you'll get your refund and we'll project the movie for your showtime in the IMAX Digital. It'll be an IMAX Digital Xeon projection presentation. We ate our food at the restaurant and I kept checking my phone and also my emails in case I got the refund email. When I checked my email, I got that goofy little AMC email that AMC always does when you buy a ticket from an AMC theater where it says, hey, get excited, your showtime is coming soon. That added a bit of comedy into it because, yeah, we'll see if I could fully enjoy it. But then, while I was eating my lunch, at 12:51, I got the refund notice email sent to me. The email was titled, Refund Issued. Due to a technical issue, the movie at AMC Rivercenter 11 has been canceled. We sincerely apologize for the inconvenience. Yeah, so I guess the part didn't arrive. And I also checked the subreddit and I got this piece of information from a user who posted it on r/IMAX. Just got to the theater and spoke with an employee. FedEx truck arrived this morning but didn't notify staff. So the part to fix the soundboard won't be here until around 4 p.m. That means the 2:30 IMAX will be digital, Xeon. Employees said that the 6:30 should be IMAX 70mm. Woof. So, I guess digital, right? Well, we walked into the theater and we made sure that that was the situation. We walked in. It was the same woman who was taking the tickets, and she said the same thing. It was like, yeah, your refund has been issued. You could try to see if you get seats for the 6:30 and 10 showing, or you could go to the Auditorium 11, where we're showing the digital projection. So we decided, well, we got the refunds. We got the money back. Let's see if there are good seats. So this is where it gets a little ridiculous. Okay, stick with me. So we went into the concession stand to get our, to see if we can get seats, decent seats, if it was possible for the 6:30 p.m. presentation. And when we checked the 6:30, it was packed. All the good seats were taken. Well, all the center seats, I should say. We'll get into that. The other show time was the 10:30. So remember when I said earlier that we talked to two workers in the morning at 12? It was that woman with the glasses and the blonde one. Well, she was in the counter, in the concession stand, where we were talking about potential seats that we could take. So keep in mind, we reserved seats in the H row for the 2:30, and we weren't satisfied, at least we thought we weren't satisfied, with the 6:30. Would we stay for the 10:30 and get out at around, it's a 3-hour movie, there's no trailers, so 10, 11, 12, 1:30. Leaving at 1:30. And mind you, we were also going to drive back home. And as I mentioned earlier, it's a 4-hour drive, and we basically be home a little before sunrise. Oh boy. Okay. But we had our seats refunded to us. 4 seats. There was just 2 of us. We decided to do a little goofy plan, and we decided to split the seats and looked at the 6:30 showtime again, and we actually found decent seats at the 6:30. We decided to change that to the 6:30 at F18 and F17. The F row is at the farthest seat at the first section. Not ideal, admittedly, but it was actually not far off from the center. We walked into the auditorium. We walked into the auditorium after we got the tickets just to see what kind of risk we took. We sat at the F18, F17 seats, and to our surprise, it actually went that bad. We only had to crack our heads up a little bit, but we were able to envision the entire screen. It was possible. It was comfortable enough. Not ideal, unlike the H row that we reserved, but it was better than the seats that we got for the 10:30 showing, because all the seats, all the good seats, yes, even seats like these were taken, and we took the most drastic seats for the 10:30 because we were desperate. We decided to take E39, E38 seats, which are these seats. These seats, far left, and it was not ideal either. Worse than these seats. We almost considered getting seats from the C, B, and A row if they were center seats, but they were too ridiculous when we decided to sit at those seats to see what they look like. Yeah, it was center seats at the A row, but it was ridiculous. Possible to view if you were desperate. But we got these seats instead. These were not ideal, but it was the last resort if this didn't work out. But when we got these seats, we were impressed. Not ideal, but not bad actually. And it actually got better. So we'll get to how it got better. So we actually felt pretty good. It was slightly off center, more off center than the H row, but it was a viewable experience if we were to sit there. So we took that gamble. Okay, we're not going to watch it digitally at 2:30. We're going to watch the 6:30. Well, it's actually quite a long time. It's 4 hours before that 6:30. How are we going to fill up that time? Well, there's this other movie that's showing that's creating kind of a buzz. In fact, there's an internet movement to see both of those movies at the same day. There's a portmanteau name for it. Yeah. What is that called?
With Barbie and Oppenheimer opening in theaters on the same day, fans have coined the term Barbenheimer, encouraging people to see the movies back to back. Social media lighting up with memes, merchandise, and this mashup movie poster created by Sean Longmore going absolutely viral.
Yeah. We decided to go see Barbie. Barbieheimer. Yeah. I participated in Barbieheimer. Quick review. It was cute. It was pretty good. A little preachy, but Ryan Gosling really stole the show with it. Yeah. That was a spare of the moment kind of decision because we got the third, so the last row of the first section. So they were pretty close seats. But I mean, beggars can't be choosers, especially when the show time was 3:15. We went to the Casablanca Theater, not the Palladium, because the Palladium was showing it at 3:50. So it was like it was a less than 30-minute drive to the theater. We went to the theater. We arrived at 3:30, I believe. 3:30, about to be 3:40. And when we arrived in the auditorium to see Barbie, we just barely made it. We entered into the theater when the Warner Brothers logo was on screen. We sat at our seats and watched the movie. I noticed that the person next to me, the person that I came with, as the movie was reaching its conclusion, they would check their phone to make sure. Because once, we needed to leave around 5:30. Because, as I mentioned, it's like a 20-minute drive from the Casablanca to the Rivercenter. So, especially since this is around 5, this is rush hour, and this is San Antonio, So, we would arrive at the Rivercenter by 6 if we left at 5:30. I think the movie did end around there. The Barbie movie, is around 2 hours long. And as I mentioned, we arrived at 5:30, 5:40. So the movie was around 2 hours long. We didn't stay to the credits. So once the credits popped up, we were like, oh, it's actually around 5:30. Yeah, let's go. We enjoyed our time. Nice time waster. I was able to experience Barbenheimer. Awesome. And so now this is it. Did the part arrive? Were we actually finally going to experience this after this hectic couple of days? Oh boy. To refresh you, 5 p.m. Failure. Cancel the second showing, the 10:15 a.m. Failure. 2:30 was canceled, replaced with digital. 6:30, we sat at our F row. F17, F18. We showed them the ticket. We had the woman who helped us, the worker, sign her name and acknowledge that they scratched off the previous designated time. As you can tell, these are written notes because of the refunds. They couldn't reprint the tickets. It's shoddy for sure, but it worked. We went into the ticket cutter. It was not the same woman. It wasn't the woman with the glasses. She left to work. She left from work at that time. She went home at that point. It was another guy. It was a guy with glasses who saw the ticket, and we said, yeah, we did this earlier. This counts. This counts. And he confirmed that it counted. And we got our snacks. Got a large popcorn, large soda. We got a Sprite. Was it a Sprite? No, it was a Coke. We got a dill pickle, and the person I came with got a hot dog with jalapenos. And we sat at our F row, and yet again, we were impressed that the seats were not terrible. They weren't bad. And what made it better is that there are 3 seats beside me. So this is the left side. The 3 seats weren't taken by anyone. So if the movie worked and those seats weren't taken, we could just scoot in. Well, we waited. 6:30 passed. And then around 5 minutes, the IMAX logo was projected. And we noticed instantly that it was IMAX film. And the experience went smoothly. The sound card arrived before the 6:30 showing. They were able to replace it, repair the sound system. The projector worked. And yeah, I was part of the first audience in San Antonio to watch Oppenheimer in 70mm. And we were able to, as the movie was at the halfway point, we decided to scooch a little to the left to the semi-center seats to get more into the center. So for a quick gamble, spare the moment gamble, a little closer than I wanted, but it was not, they were not bad seats. And I was able to finally experience the new Christopher Nolan movie in IMAX 70mm. It was a really great experience. A great movie as well. 8 out of 10. Great movie. I really loved it. One moment that sticks out is the beginning. I guess a little bit of nerdism, but with Nolan movies, especially when I went to go see Dunkirk and Tenet, the IMAX logo isn't the full-on IMAX logo that you would get, that you would get before you see a film in IMAX. It's this screen grab. I'll put what it was like. If you notice in the background music of that splash screen, it's the old music for the IMAX logo and not the modern sonic anthem, they call it. Now, I actually prefer the original music, not Sonic Anthem. That's just me. So, a little nerdism there for you. Although I would have thought it'd be really cool if it was the full IMAX intro with the original music. um, One thing I did notice that really cemented the experience for me was the movie begins. First off, it's very weird to see the Universal logo before a Christopher Nolan movie because you expect Warner Brothers. But yeah, this was it was the Universal logo. It's like when you went to go see Star Wars The Force Awakens and you don't hear the 20th Century Fox fanfare in the beginning of the movie, just seeing the Lucasfilm logo. It's very weird. Once the logo's passed, you see Universal, you see the Syncope, Christopher Nolan's production company. Once you see that, the first shot of the movie is then shown, and it's in the full aspect ratio. And every person in the audience gasped. I don't think I was alone. I think I was one of many, many people who was the first to experience true OG IMAX. Not just in terms of film, but in terms of aspect ratio. I guarantee I wasn't the only one in that auditorium who their farthest extent was seeing 1.90 aspect ratio, equivalent to a 16:9 screen. I know it's not, but as a comparison. And I was fortunate enough to experience IMAX 70mm before in two unique locations, in two unique circumstances, dome and flat documentary, respectively. But everybody in the auditorium gasped when the first shot of the movie. That was pretty neat. The quality at the beginning, I won't spoil, but it's the section with this is literally like one of the first scenes of the movie where Oppenheimer has a plan to deal with the teacher's green apple. That scene before that point was a little blurry. I don't want to say soft because it was a focus issue, but as the movie progressed and Nolan does this creative decision where certain shots and certain scenes, especially the background when Oppenheimer is having this existential crisis or this paranoia or anxiety, it would unfocus or the brightness was saturated. So that could have been a director's decision. I don't think that was the actual thing being unfocused. Maybe it was unfocused for that one section. It was only that one scene though. So it could have been creative, artistic intent. But once that passed, there are sections in the movie where you get specks of dust or stars or particles whizzing by. The clarity, it was crisp. It was probably the crispest theater experience I've ever seen. IMAX 70mm film ain't no joke. When projected properly, it was actually really crisp. I was blown away. There's especially when you see those specks of dust or particles or stars, whatever they are, whizzing by, it borderline 3D because, as I mentioned, we sat pretty close, but it was borderline 3D at that seat, at that quality. It was actually kind of trippy.
IMAX 70mm 15 per film is the highest quality imaging format that's ever been devised. It's an incredible way to see it. The screen really disappears. I refer to it as 3D without the glasses. You know, there's this massive, clear, crisp, bright image that you can lose yourself in.
And it was just a really nice experience. I was able to scratch that off my IMAX bucket list. And yeah, the sound worked all the way through. The sound was good. People are talking about the controversy with Nolan and his audio dialogue issues and stuff like that. Um, it was audible. I was able to get 90%, 80% of the dialogue. So typical Nolan affair, you know. So yeah, the movie worked. I was able to experience it, and I'm very happy about that. So anybody who went to go see this movie at the Rivercenter after my showtime, I hope it went smoothly for you as well. I hope Saturday and I hope Sunday, the days after that, there's no mess ups. To talk about the situation, whose fault it wasn't the employees. I would say it's the management of that AMC Rivercenter, but it's not the employees. As I mentioned, those people we encountered earlier, those two women, were really nice, attentive, gave us information, kept us in the know. And that person that I called on the phone Thursday night was also really nice, attentive, gave me information, let me in the know. It's not the employees' fault. The employees were good. The auditorium when we went to go to the 6:30, it could have been just my row, but when we sat down at row F, yeah, there was no, popcorn junk on the floor. The auditorium was clean. Although I don't know about the normal second section behind us, but where we sat, it was clean. I think who's at fault, most importantly, is Universal and IMAX. If I was in charge, I would have sent these film prints a week early. A week early, maybe even the week of, send them the prints to these auditoriums so they could assemble it and screen it to not the public, but just to an IMAX representative and the projectionist who are going to be responsible. It's going to be their jobs to do this day after day after day and do a test run from beginning to end. If they did this, they would have noticed an issue and done it accordingly, get this resolved accordingly. If there was an issue, great. We found out a week before the official run started. Maybe that's what they did, and this happened just so happened to happen on Thursday. But as I mentioned, that film critic and a group of people went to early preview screening of the movie on Monday or Tuesday of the same week, and they saw it in a digital presentation. They did not get an IMAX 70mm test run. If they would have done a test run at that day and had that issue discovered, they could have resolved it promptly, got the parts sent on the next day, and the people who went at the 5 p.m. showing on Thursday could have possibly watched it to the fullest extent. So I think it's IMAX's fault. I think it's Universal's fault, mostly Universal. I think it's mostly Universal's fault, but IMAX definitely has the blame, and I think the management as well at the AMC Rivercenter, though it's less their problem. They're probably, if I were to do this in percentages, it's probably 60 Universal, 40 IMAX, 10 the Rivercenter. That is the timeline of events, and yeah. I have Interstellar. I have a film frame, film cell, the IMAX print. Yeah, engulfed the entire screen. I thought this shirt was also appropriate. Death Dynamic Shroud. I thought that was appropriate. I actually wear this same shirt when I went to go see the movie. I thought it was appropriate. I have become death, destroyer of worlds. This is Avery GATO. Peace.